Hey, what's happening? In today's video, we're going to talk about how you can use AI to completely replace your marketing team. And I know you can do it because I did it in my business. If we've never met, my name is Kern. I've been selling things online full-time since 1999. That's 26 years, which is like a billion internet years. I have been paid by over 83,000 and counting entrepreneurs to help them with their marketing in some way, shape, or form. None of this really matters to you, with the exception of over these 26 years, I've developed a system for consistently getting good results with marketing. And I've been able to replace myself with AI. So I'm going to show you how I did it and how you can replace yourself too, if you want to. Let's start with a simple question. How do all internet businesses work? Yeah, this is a one-way conversation because I don't expect you to talk back to the computer. They work like this. You build a list of people that are interested in your type of stuff, and then you sell them something that makes them really happy, and then you sell them something else. That's literally the entire model of selling anything online. It doesn't matter what it is. If this is the case, then really what we need to be focusing on is building a list and making as many offers as we can. And that, from 26 years of doing this, is where people get stuck. We get stuck in the minutia or in the overwhelm. So we're going to fix all of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use AI to replace a marketing team. So let me help you out here. So first of all, nobody ever hoses you and tries to sell you something you don't need. What does a marketing team really do? Well, their job is to get you more customers and specifically more revenue overall. And in order for a marketing team to do a good job of that, they need to first either get this information from you or come up with this information. And the information itself is a specific target, not more money, not more customers, but I want X amount of whatever in Y time. All right. So specific target, specific deadline. That's super important. If you're working with any agency or marketing team or staff or whatever, and this is not the top of mind mission at all times, then it's worth making some changes and asking some hard questions. All right. So once we have this in mind, the next thing that needs to be done by AI or people or you or your team or whatever is, instead of just going out and making a plan, you need to get this. And this is a list of all the stuff that is currently available to you. All right. So let's say, I want to get 100 more monthly users for my software called oJoy.ai within the next 15 days. Great. What do we have that currently exists that could help us achieve that target in that time frame the easiest and the fastest? And so stuff like this is like, all right, what's your email list look like? How many visitors are you getting? What's in your social media audience? Do you have any campaigns that worked before? We can just deploy those again. You wouldn't believe how many times that's been the big idea and it's worked. What campaigns are working? What landing pages are you testing? What are the opt-in pages? You get it, right? Like, what's the ammunition, so to speak, that we have to work with to get here? And when you get this big list of stuff, the next thing that you or your team or AI or whoever, what they need to get now is your numbers and stats. Like, okay, what sells the best? What conversion rate on your sales page? Is there a version that works better than the other? What's your opt-in rate like? Do you have a two-step order form where you capture name and email address before they get to the part where they submit their payment? If so, how many of these people are abandoning cart? There could very well be a ton of people. You could just send a promotion just to them. How are your emails doing? Open click-through rates? You got it. Like, what's working? What's not working? The reason this is important because something might just be like a little tweak on one of these things, and you could just hit the target just like that. So once all this stuff is gathered, all right, the next thing we want to get is we want to create a strategy and plan. And of course, we all know the correct term for this is strategery, but spell check would make it look weird on this little document thing. But somebody needs to take all of this stuff, like, okay, here's what we want to do, here's our mission right here, and then here's what we got, and here's how everything's working, and they need to use that data to formulate a strategy and the plan to get here by using the lowest hanging fruit. All right. So if the focus on reaching this target is not using what you have right now to find the lowest hanging fruit to get here, like the fastest and simplest way possible, then you're working with the wrong marketing team. So if they're immediately like, we should make a new offer and let's do all kinds of new stuff, and they haven't gone through all this, then again, it's time to ask some pretty hard questions. So this part isn't necessarily easy, but it is useless without the final piece. And the final piece is implementation. And this is where it's really easy to go wrong, especially in the days of AI, which are upon us, as you know, because it's really fun and really cool to go to ChatGPT or whatever and be like, hey, I want to make more money. And very rarely is it going to help you or even advise you to set a specific target. But let's say it even does that. Then it's just going to give you all of these ideas and you don't know really what they're based on. It's just kind of theoretical. And it may be a good plan. It may not be a good plan. But then even if it is, it's going to give you 20 million different ideas, and then somebody's got to do the stuff. So in order to have AI run your entire marketing department and do it properly, it needs to not only come up with the strategy and the planning, it also needs to be able to handle this implementation, which usually is just words and stuff, right? Because if all we're doing is building a list and then selling them stuff, that really means we're just putting words and stuff out there that builds the list. Then we're sending words and stuff to the list to get them to go to a web page that's got words and stuff on it that's designed to get them to buy things. So most of the implementation is words and stuff, thankfully, and that's good. So with all of this in mind, which I know is kind of hard to see here, let's see if I can make it better for you. There we go. With all of this in mind, how do you do it with AI? Well, funny you should ask. Just so happens that the AI software that my family owns called oJoy.ai has a tool that does this. And here's what's unique about it. And I'll show you exactly how to use this in a minute. And I'll use my own business as an example so you can see how I do it in my day-to-day life. But what's cool about this and what you should be doing, I know it's awkward for me to tell you what you should be doing. I mean, who am I? But here's what works anyway, is this. Instead of doing this once, all right, the best thing that really gets significant growth that I found in my business and with clients is this. And this is where we take that whole system I just diagrammed for you and we turn it into a perpetual process. So you get your target and your deadline, whatever. I need to make $10,000, extra per month in the next 30 days or 100,000. Well, it doesn't matter, whatever it may be. And so then you come up with a strategy and the plan and you implement it. And next, you review it. And what this means is you look at it and you see the results. You're like, did that work or not? So you run it back through the same process we just went through. And if it worked, then you make it a permanent part of your sales process. So like if it's an email promotion or something, you automate that email promotion going forward so that all new leads will eventually go through that promo. And then we come back here and we, look at the scene again, and we come up with the next one thing, which is like the lowest hanging fruit to focus on, all right? And then we do that cycle and we keep doing that. And what ends up happening is you get exponential growth in the business over time. And I'll show you how. So let's get into it. So oJoy.ai, which you're looking at here, it's got several really powerful tools. And one of them, which is the one that replaces a marketing team, is called Chief Revenue Officer. And I'm not going to make you watch me type all this stuff in here because it'll get boring. But I used it a couple weeks ago and you start a conversation, like, I need to make more sales. And it does exactly what a good marketing team would do, which is like, okay, specifically, what do you want to do? And I was like, all right, I want to increase my trials by 100 trials every month for oJoy.ai. And I don't want to increase it significantly more than that because we are taking the slow, take it easy growth thing. So it's like, cool. Okay. When do you want it to happen? I'm like, I want it to happen in the next 30 days. So this conversation, by the way, I had this conversation on the 17th of January. So it's like, all right, cool. This is what you want to do. And now it's asking me how the business works. Remember, and our very second thing we do after getting a specific target is we get all the stuff, all the moving pieces that you've got in the business, right? Because we're going to try to find the lowest hanging fruit. Like, what's the one thing we can do right now to hit this specific goal fastest, or at least to move us closer to that goal. So it's asking me, all right? So I tell it all about oJoy, like yada, 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 7-day trial. We got 53% of trials turn into paid customers, which is pretty cool. All right. And I'm telling it, we don't want to grow too fast. So we typically get around 250 a month. And I want to bring it up to 350. It's like, all right, man, where are those coming from? I mean, it's basically just asking stuff like an actual marketing consultant or chief revenue officer or chief marketing officer, whatever you want to call your C-suite employees, is asking stuff that they would ask you. So I'm like, yeah, most of our traffic comes from YouTube. We don't make clickable ads, just branding stuff, which is working very well, by the way. And then it's asking me, do I have an email list and stuff? And I'm like, yeah. And so it's confirming everything. And this is where it gets interesting. So if you're working with a team, then they need to ask you stuff like, hey, what was your best month ever? And the reason they need to ask you that is because a lot of times, and I can tell you this from experience, a lot of times a person who owns a business will do something that worked really, really well, and then they'll just not do it anymore. So first thing this thing's going to try to do is see if there's a situation like that where we can kind of do the thing that worked again. And that's what happened on the 17th. So conversation kind of went like this, make it easy and less boring. It was like, hey, what was your best month? And I was like, well, in May, I did this 14-day trial and it worked really, really well. And we got a ton of trials, but I don't want to get that many trials. It was like, okay, cool. What was it about? And I was like, well, it was my birthday. And I was like, hey, it's my birthday. Let's have a special offer. Instead of, 7 days, let's do a 14-day trial. And I was like, okay. And this is cool. And you can see in the conversation the logic it's using. And if you're using humans or AI, it needs to be able to perform this type of logic. It's like, okay, cool. So in May, you ran a birthday-themed 14-day trial, and you got 800 people. Okay, that's 3 times more than your normal. So running a special promotion works really well. You just don't want to, unleash it on the entire list because you don't want 800 trials again. By the way, the 800 trials worked out fine. I just want to make sure, I'm the only tech guy by design, so I want to make sure everybody has a good experience. That's all. So anyway, it was like, you want controlled growth here. So you don't have to mail your whole list. You could run the exact same promotion, but strip away the birthday angle so it knew, all right, obviously it's not going to be your birthday again here in January is when I ran this thing. So come up with a new reason why and only send it to a few people. So it helped me actually brainstorm the reason why, which was we created a new onboarding process for oJoy. So I was like, yeah, man, just tell them that you want to see how well the onboarding process works because it's true. And I was like, okay, that'll work out pretty well. So it's like, all right, man, and then I wanted to figure out how do I present that? Because what it does, and this is what's neat about this, is it tells me to go to Project Shepherd, which is our implementation tool in oJoy.ai. It does the words and stuff. This is our AI copywriter. And it just tells me that I need to tell it. So I just actually asked it this just so I could demonstrate this to you because I knew I would end up using this case study in the video. I was like, well, how's this Project Shepherd going to know about my offer, man? What the hell? So finally, we end up going back and forth. And it's like, all right, man, just go, okay? Go to Project Shepherd and tell it this. Say, here's my normal sales page. Here's the one from my May birthday promotion, and write me some emails and help me make a new sales page and stuff. And it was like, pick your deadline and then make sure you don't send it to your entire list. Go forth and prosper. And it's like, and then when you're done, let me know what happens. All right. And that's important. You always want to let it know what happened so it can help you. That works great. You can make it an automated part of your system or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll do that. I like to work backwards. So I started with the sales letter and I went and I grabbed my sales letter from the May promo that worked really well and I fed it to Project Shepherd and I'll show you what it did. So here's what Project Shepherd looks like. And I was like, this is a sales letter I wrote for a promotion, worked real good. It's for my birthday, outline it and stuff, and we're going to rewrite it. So I just pasted this whole giant sales letter here. I'm a big fan of copying and pasting stuff into AI instead of uploading PDFs. It just reads it better. So anyway, did all that. And then right after I started redoing the sales letter, I was like, you know what, man? If I tell them that I'm testing the new onboarding process and I want to see how they like it, I'm just going to get a lot of people that want to check out the onboarding process. They're probably not really going to be that interested in becoming customers. And I was like, why don't I tell them about Chief Revenue Officer? It's a new feature and it's freaking cool. So instead of ultimately cloning my May sales letter and using the new onboarding process as a reason for this promo, I ended up redoing everything and just still the same concept. But I was like, let's make it about this new feature, Chief Revenue Officer. So on and on and on. And it took me probably, between working with AI and like manually tweaking stuff, about 45 minutes or so to get the sales letter done. But check out what ended up happening. I gave the sales copy to Gemini, which I've never done this before. And I was like, hey, I want you to build me a landing page using this sales copy, but I want you to use the best industry standards for conversion rate optimization as of today. And this was on the 17th of January. So as of today, January 17th, 2026. And it took my copy and it created like this fancy looking web page here. And it's like kind of minimal, So it told me, it was like, hey, cut out a lot of your copy and use these graphics. And I kind of had to argue with it a little bit because the first draft that Gemini wanted to make just had like a headline and two little thingies and then a buy now button. I was like, dude, that's not really going to cut it. And I was a little bit nervous about this. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but it ended up working. So this is the sales letter that oJoy wrote for me. And then I slapped it into the Gemini 3 and it made it look fancy. Never done that before. Super easy. Who would have guessed? All right. So next up was the emails. So what I did was I gave it the original super long sales letter that oJoy wrote for me. And I was like, hey, read this sales letter and write me a bunch of emails for it. And it's, a deadline sequence. And the deadline is going to be ending on the 19th of January at 11 a.m. So it did. And that was cool. So it wrote the entire email sequence for me. And that probably took me like another 20 minutes or so, mainly because I just like to tweak little things, you know what I mean? And the net effect of what happened is I ended up from that promo, which it only ran from the 18th through the 19th because I was too slow to get it out, on Friday. So I just did, or whatever it was, Saturday or Sunday and Monday. Anyway, it got 62 trials. And here's what's interesting about this is I took the angle in the emails. I was like, hey, this probably is not for you. If you don't have a real business and if you're not actually getting leads and customers and stuff regularly, then this isn't going to help you and it's going to be a waste of your time. But if you are getting leads and customers regularly, then this thing's really cool. And that was kind of the theme of all the emails, which is why I didn't get as much traffic as I normally do, but boy, did it convert. Look at that, 11% conversion on that sales page. So I got 62 new trials from that. Now, what's interesting about this is these guys have converted at 57%, and my normal conversion rate is 53%. That's trial to customer. So that whole disqualifying thing, where I was like, hey, if you don't have a real business, then like don't mess with this. That ended up paying off. Yeah, maybe I didn't get as many trials, but 10% more of them actually became paying customers. So I'll take that. Now, here's where this gets really cool. So remember earlier, I was like, okay, look, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're working with people or if it's just you or you're using AI or whatever, you need to, once you're done doing the thing that you did, in this case, it was a promotion, you need to run through the entire cycle again to find the next singular thing to focus on. Remember, we've got our little flywheel here where you target and deadline and get your strategy, you implement it, and then you review it. So we can just feed it back into Chief Revenue Officer and be like, all right, man, here's what happened. Here's the stats and everything. So check this out, because this is where it gets really cool. So here's what ended up happening on the 30th of January. Is that right? Yeah, Friday. I think that's the right date. Anyway, whatever. After the thing was over, a couple of weeks after it was over, I went back to Chief Revenue Officer and I just pasted in the original chat that I showed you. And I was like, here's what happened. What do I do next? So I said, I used the new Chief Revenue Officer as a reason why, and I didn't segment the list. I just figured I'd see what would happen. And I made it very clear in my email copy, this was intended only for people who have businesses that are consistently getting leads and customers. Man, I can't tell you how important that is. Like when you're doing anything with marketing, like the messaging needs to call out to the right person. I can't tell you how many businesses that I've worked with that were high ticket businesses and their lead magnet would be like, here's how to make your first $10,000 a month online. I'm like, well, dude, if you're using that as a lead magnet, then you're attracting people who are not making enough money to pay you. Logic, but whatever. I'm not going to complain about that. It made my job really easy. Anyway, so it's like, oh, okay, dude, makes sense. Great. And it ended up doing exactly what a really good marketing consultant, which is, all right, what about these 272 people who clicked to the expiration page after the deadline was over? Like, what's the deal with those guys? The fact they came in after the deadline is a pretty good indicator that a lot of people didn't even open the dang emails until after the deadline was over, which clearly they didn't because it was over the weekend. And rudely, not everybody opens my emails as soon as I send it to. I don't know either. Your guess is as good as mine. Why they don't do that? Probably because they're normal people. So it immediately, instead of saying, okay, let's come up with a totally different angle or whatever, it knew. It was like, okay, there's still some demand there. Let's do that campaign again. And it's giving me some ideas for it. And it's even telling me about the angle to use in the promotion, which is, I ran the numbers and it worked really well. Here we are because it worked last time and 272 people tried to get it, but they hit the expired page and all that kind of stuff. So it gave me the instructions. And just to clarify, really, because I knew that I would be showing this to you, I was like, should I just give it the emails from the last promo and tell it to change the angle and the new date and stuff? And it was like, yeah, basically do that. So I did. And I just sent it this weekend and the deadline expired. I'm making this for you at 1:15 p.m. on the 2nd of February. So the deadline expired this morning. And let's have a look at how it did. And here's the promo. We ended up getting 627 visitors from that and 35 new trials. You might be like, well, dude, that's not very impressive. And I would argue that actually it is right about perfect, because any old school direct response people that might be watching this, when you send out a promo and it works and you send another version of it shortly after the first version, you usually get about 50% as many people that you got from the first one. And so this is almost exactly right on the money. It's a little bit better than 50%. But in my emails, I was even more aggressive about don't use this at all unless you have a real business. And again, that's intentional because the ones that are qualified actually turn into customers 10% higher. So I was like, well, let's see, how much we can push this higher conversion rate up. So at this stage, the question becomes, all right, well, now are you going to keep running the same promotion over and over again? And the answer is no. So the way that Chief Revenue Officer works is once it finds all of the lowest hanging fruit for you, and I'll see if I can get it to do this for us real quick. So I came over here and I told it, which isn't true, by the way. I still have plenty more email campaigns to build based on what it's capable of, but I just pretended so I could show you this. I was like, all right, we're out of email stuff to do. Now let's optimize the funnel. Essentially, let's make the sales process better. And it asked me a bunch of questions and everything. And I was like, I don't want to get more people every month. This is cool for now. It asked me my average customer value, which according to Stripe is around $400. And it's like, okay, this is cool. You should add an order bump. And that normally would be great advice. The challenges is what I meant to say. It was like, you could offer any of these things as an order bump. They check a little box to get extra stuff, but they don't need any of this because they already get it all for free. So it's like, dude, I can't do that. So it's like, okay, well then let's maybe do a one-click upsell. So let's watch how it handles this thing. It's saying, okay, you could do a skip the trial and lock in quarterly billing at X% off, which incidentally was my suggestion. It would have come to that conclusion anyway, probably, but let's see. So for now, it's $49 a month. I'm probably going to raise the price because Chief Revenue Officer is attracting more sophisticated businesses that would use it more. But for now, it's, $49 a month if they want to keep it after the trial. And I would prefer to do like a quarterly thing, skip the trial, upgrade to quarterly and get a discount. That would be cool. That's one of the advantages of this tool is you can just talk to it like a normal person. This was originally built just for me, by the way. And then I started offering it to the public, like I forgot, in December of 2024. So we're still a pretty new company, And it's suggesting this is an order bump. And I think it would be better as a one-click upsell. And I think it should be a better deal. So I'm going to tell it. And that's the thing about AI, like even with this, like sometimes you know better. I always joke around. I'm like, the ultimate secret weapon is AI plus HI, which is artificial intelligence combined with human intelligence of all things. So I'm going to use what little human intelligence I have left. And I'm going to say, when you do an order bump, there's just not enough room to put the copy on the order form. So instead, let's do a one-click upsell. And I'm not sure that a $20 savings is enough to make them really motivated to do it. So given that information, what would you suggest? So it's like, all right, dude, then to 3 months for $98. Let's see what happens. And I like that. And then it's like, if they say no to quarterly, try annual. So, okay, let's see what happens. All right, so I'll tell it, okay, cool. So what am I supposed to say? Like, how do I pitch that? Tell me how to pitch each one and tell me what to do. And now it's given me the prompt to paste into Project Shepherd. Now, when you paste something like this into Project Shepherd, if you've ever used it, you'll know what this is like. It'll ask you clarifying questions if it needs it, So I'm cool with a simple little couple sentences prompt like this because it'll extract further information for me to write the landing pages and stuff. And then here's the prompt for the annual version. So all I got to do is just get that copy done and slap it on a web page and see what happens. I probably will do it. And if I do, I'll update you on what happens. But this is how you replace yourself in terms of marketing or replace a marketing team. Because really the way to grow a business is to consistently be making offers and improving your sales process. So you're either building your list every day, making new offers every day. It could be the same offer positioned differently, following up with people, and tweaking little things in your sales process to optimize it. And this will do it for you. Or of course, you could just not do it and be overwhelmed or spend a bunch of money on a marketing team, which may or may not be good. It really depends on the team. But this is working excellently for me, and I'm stoked on it. And if you want to try it, you can. Try it for free. oJoy.ai. All right. Thanks so much for watching this. Hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.